Your next soulmate is younger than you. But that's not even the biggest surprise. My beloved child, before your heart tries to explain what it cannot yet understand, remain here for just a little longer, because something quietly beautiful has already begun moving toward you. There are moments that arrive without announcing themselves, and yet they reshape the direction of an entire life. This is one of those moments. What you are about to hear is not about chance or coincidence. It is about timing, the kind of timing that only becomes meaningful when you look back and realize every delay had a purpose. Don't skip this moment, because something important is waiting for you, and each passing sentence will reveal another piece that has been hidden until now. You have spent so much time believing that love must always arrive in a familiar form, that it must fit the picture you carried for years. Yet the future rarely asks permission before surprising the heart. It simply arrives with a smile you never expected, a conversation you almost ignored, or a person who seems completely different from everyone you imagined. The first surprise is already standing quietly before you, though you may not recognize it today. The one who is gradually finding their way toward your life carries a spirit that feels lighter than yours, a curiosity that reminds you how to laugh again, and a way of seeing ordinary days as if they were extraordinary. Yes, they are younger than you. But pause for a moment before your mind decides what that means. Age is only the first detail, and perhaps the least important one. The deeper story has nothing to do with numbers. Stay till the end, because the meaning behind this difference is far more beautiful than you might expect. Have you ever noticed how certain people arrive carrying the very qualities you thought had disappeared from the world? They ask simple questions that somehow reach the deepest parts of your heart. They notice little things others overlook. They celebrate quiet victories. They make silence feel comfortable instead of empty. This soul carries that rare gift. They will not enter your life trying to impress you. Instead, they will make you feel understood in ways that seem almost effortless. That feeling may confuse you at first. You may wonder why someone who has walked fewer years somehow understands emotions you struggle to explain. The answer is hidden in experiences that shape them differently, not less deeply. Wisdom does not always measure itself by age. Sometimes it grows through kindness, patience, and the willingness to keep believing in goodness even after disappointment. That is why your paths are beginning to lean toward each other. One heart has learned endurance. The other has preserved hope. Together they create something neither could build alone. Imagine meeting someone who listens before speaking, who notices your pauses more than your words, who sees strength inside the places you quietly call weakness. That meeting will not feel dramatic. It will feel strangely familiar, as though your spirit recognizes something long before your thoughts do. You may even catch yourself smiling without knowing why. The connection will grow gently, almost unnoticed, until one ordinary day you realize your world feels brighter simply because they are part of it. And still, this is not the biggest surprise. Not even close. There is another truth quietly waiting behind this one, a truth that explains why every relationship that failed to stay was making space for something far more aligned with the person you are becoming now. You may think this story is about discovering someone younger. It is not. That is only the door. Beyond that door is a revelation that changes the way you understand every unanswered question from your past. The next chapter has already begun moving closer, and when it finally unfolds, you will understand why today's smallest detail was only preparing you for tomorrow's greatest surprise, there is something remarkable about the way life prepares two people without allowing them to see the preparation while it is happening. One learns patience through waiting. The other learns courage through beginning again. Neither realizes that every quiet lesson is slowly becoming part of the same story. That is why you should not rush ahead in your thoughts just yet. The next piece is softer than you expect, yet it carries a meaning that can stay with you for years. Stay a little longer, because the picture is only now beginning to come into focus. You may wonder why this connection feels different even before it fully arrives. It is because this person will not be trying to become someone you need. They will simply be themselves. In a world where so many conversations feel rehearsed, theirs will feel refreshingly honest. There will be moments when they laugh without holding anything back, moments when they speak with a quiet confidence that makes you forget every expectation you once carried. Instead of asking you to change, they will naturally create an atmosphere where becoming your truest self feels easy. This is where the age difference begins to reveal its real purpose. It is not there to create distance. It is there to create balance. While you have learned to slow down before making important choices, they remind you that hope still deserves a chance. While you carefully protect your heart, they gently remind you that joy grows when it is shared. Neither of you completes the other because you are incomplete. Instead, each of you awakens qualities the other had quietly placed to one side. Have you ever noticed how some people arrive exactly when you have stopped searching so intensely? Not because you gave up, but because you finally became comfortable with your own journey. That quiet confidence changes everything. It becomes the place where meaningful connections naturally find you. This next soulmate is drawn not to the version of you that sought approval, but to the version that has learned peace. That difference matters more than you know. Don't skip this part, because something even more meaningful is hidden beneath the surface. There is a reason your previous connections never fully settled into your life. They taught you what kindness feels like, what respect feels like, what honesty should sound like, and perhaps most importantly, what no longer belongs in your future. Those experiences were not interruptions. They were gentle directions leading you towards someone whose path was still unfolding at the same time as yours. Then comes the realization that almost no one expects. Before this person ever meets you, they will already carry an unexpected admiration for someone exactly like you. They have quietly hoped to meet a person with your maturity, your calmness, your depth of thought. While others may have viewed those qualities as ordinary, this soul sees them as rare treasures. The very things you once worried made you different become the reasons they feel naturally drawn toward you. That is why your first conversations may feel surprisingly effortless. There will be no need to prove your worth. No need to perform. No need to search endlessly for the right words. Silence itself will become part of the conversation. You will realize that being understood is sometimes more powerful than being admired. And yet, the greatest surprise has still not been spoken. Because what truly changes everything is not that this person is younger, it is not even how naturally your hearts begin to understand one another. There is another piece of this story quietly waiting beyond the horizon, something connected to the very first moment your paths almost crossed without either of you realizing it. When that hidden moment is finally revealed, you will look back and wonder how two lives could come so close, and still have one final chapter left to begin. Long before your eyes recognize this person, your life will begin changing in ways that seem completely unrelated. A routine will shift. A familiar place will suddenly feel different. A conversation you almost decide not to have will linger in your thoughts for reasons you cannot explain. These moments will appear ordinary while they are happening, but later they will fit together like pieces of a picture that had been quietly forming all along. Stay with this journey, because what seems small today may become the memory you treasure most tomorrow. There is a gentle truth that many people overlook. The most meaningful connections rarely begin with overwhelming certainty. They begin with quiet curiosity. You notice the way they listen instead of waiting to speak. You notice how they remember details that others forget. You notice that time seems to move differently when they are nearby. Without realizing it, your heart becomes calmer instead of louder. That calmness is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of trust slowly taking root. This younger soul carries an unexpected depth that surprises almost everyone who meets them. They have learned to appreciate sincerity over appearances. They are not searching for perfection. They are searching for peace. And when they encounter someone whose presence feels genuine, they recognize it almost immediately. That is why they will be drawn toward you without fully understanding why. It will not feel rushed. It will feel natural, as though every conversation gently opens another door that neither of you knew existed. You may even question the connection at first. Your mind may quietly whisper that the difference between you is too noticeable. But while your thoughts are counting years, your hearts are discovering understanding. While the world notices numbers, your conversations will reveal something far more meaningful. You will realize that emotional maturity cannot be measured by birthdays alone. Some people spend decades avoiding honesty, while others learn its value surprisingly early. This person belongs to the second group. Something important is waiting for you in the next realization, because this is where the story begins to turn in a way few expect. There will be a moment when they reveal something they have never easily shared with anyone else. It won't happen dramatically. It may come during an ordinary conversation, a peaceful walk, or a quiet evening when neither of you feels the need to impress the other. They will tell you that, for a long time, they wondered if someone would ever truly understand the way they think, the way they hope, the way they love. And as those words leave their heart, you will quietly recognize that you have carried the very same question. That shared realization becomes the bridge between two different journeys. It is no longer about who arrived first in life or who has seen more years. It becomes about two people discovering that they have been looking for the same feeling all along, a place where they can simply be themselves without explanation. And then comes the detail that changes the entire meaning of the title. The greatest surprise was never their age. The greatest surprise is that your lives have already brushed against each other before. Perhaps through a familiar place. Perhaps through someone you both know. Perhaps through a moment so ordinary that neither of you noticed it at the time. Your paths came astonishingly close, yet the season was not right. One of you still had a lesson to learn. The other still had a dream to pursue. So life quietly allowed you to pass by each other, only to bring your paths together again when both hearts were finally ready. When that hidden connection finally comes into the light, you won't just smile because you found each other. You'll smile because you'll realize that this story didn't begin on the day you met. It began much earlier, and the next piece of that forgotten chapter is waiting to reveal itself when the journey continues. Sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries are hidden inside memories that once seemed completely ordinary. You may find yourself looking back at an old photograph, remembering a place you visited without much thought, or recalling a conversation that faded into the background years ago. At first, none of it will seem connected. Then, almost unexpectedly, one small detail will stand out. It will feel as though a quiet light has been shining on that memory all along, waiting for the exact moment you were ready to notice it. Stay with this moment, because another piece of the story is about to settle into place. There is a reason this connection refuses to feel rushed. Some stories are meant to unfold slowly so that every chapter can be appreciated. If everything were revealed at once, the beauty would disappear too quickly. Instead, every meeting, every shared smile, every thoughtful conversation becomes another thread woven into something lasting. You won't need constant excitement to know this connection is meaningful. The peace you feel around them will speak louder than dramatic moments ever could. This younger soul will notice qualities about you that you have almost forgotten yourself. They will admire your patience when you think it goes unnoticed. They will appreciate your quiet strength when you believe you are simply doing what anyone would do. They will see kindness where you see routine, and courage where you only remember the challenges you faced. Their perspective will gently remind you that the person you have become is far more remarkable than you have allowed yourself to believe. And something equally beautiful begins happening within them. Your presence becomes a safe place where they no longer feel the need to hide their dreams behind uncertainty. They begin speaking more freely about the future. They laugh more often. They trust themselves more deeply. Without trying to change each other, you both become more fully yourselves. That is the kind of connection that quietly grows stronger with time instead of fading beneath it. Don't skip this part, because the next realization may explain why your journey has felt delayed for so long. There were moments when you wondered why certain doors never opened. Why certain people drifted away. Why plans changed without warning. Looking back, those unanswered questions may finally begin making sense. Every delay created space. Every unexpected turn protected the timing of something still unfolding. What once felt like an interruption now reveals itself as careful preparation. Not because life was keeping something from you, but because it was allowing both stories to mature before they could naturally meet. Then comes a conversation you will remember for years. It happens without planning. Without rehearsal. In the middle of an ordinary day, this person looks at you with complete sincerity and says something simple. I always felt like I would meet someone who understood me. I just never imagined it would feel this natural. Those words settle into your heart more deeply than either of you expected. You realize that neither of you had been searching for perfection. You had both been searching for peace. And then, another gentle surprise begins to emerge. You discover that while you were wondering whether the age difference would matter, they had never been thinking about it in the same way. To them, what stood out was never the number of years between you. It was the kindness in your voice, the calm in your presence, and the quiet confidence you carried without trying to impress anyone. The very thing you thought might become a question had never been the focus of their heart at all. Yet even now, the story has one final layer that has not been revealed. Because there is one reason this meeting feels so familiar, so comfortable, and so quietly unforgettable. It is connected to a promise neither of you ever spoke aloud, a hope carried silently through different seasons of life. When that hidden promise finally comes into view, you will understand that the biggest surprise was never who was younger. It was how two completely different journeys had been moving toward the same destination from the very beginning, and the final revelation is closer than either of you realizes. There is a quiet moment that arrives in every meaningful journey, a moment when questions stop asking for immediate answers and the heart simply begins to understand. You may not even notice when that moment comes. It won't arrive with noise or grand announcements. It will arrive through peace. Through the realization that the connection you once tried to explain now feels completely natural. Stay with this until the very last word, because the final pieces of this chapter are gently finding their place. As the days continue, you will notice something unexpected. The conversations between you become less about discovering each other and more about recognizing each other. It feels as though every shared memory is uncovering something that was already waiting beneath the surface. You finish each other's thoughts without trying. You laugh at the same quiet moments. You encourage one another without needing to be asked. These are not dramatic signs. They are gentle reminders that the strongest bonds are often built through simple, consistent kindness. One evening, almost without thinking, this person will ask you a question that seems ordinary. If we had met years earlier, do you think we would have noticed each other? For a moment, neither of you answers. Not because the question is difficult. Because the silence itself already carries the answer. The truth is that you probably would have crossed paths, smiled politely, and continued walking. The timing would not have allowed either heart to recognize what was standing in front of it. One of you would still have been learning patience. The other would still have been discovering confidence. You were never meant to meet too early. You were meant to meet at the moment when both of you could truly appreciate what had been placed in your lives. That realization changes everything. Suddenly, the delays no longer feel disappointing. The unanswered questions no longer feel empty. The unexpected detours no longer seem random. They become stepping stones that quietly led toward this meeting. Don't skip this thought, because it carries the heart of the entire story. You believed the biggest surprise would be discovering that your next soulmate is younger than you. Then you believed the bigger surprise was realizing your paths had almost crossed before. But neither of those truths reaches as deeply as the final one beginning to unfold. The greatest surprise is this. The person who is coming into your life will never ask you to become someone else. They will never expect you to erase your past, hide your experiences, or pretend to be younger, different, or more impressive than you are. Instead, they will treasure the very journey that shaped you. The years you once questioned become the years they admire. The lessons you quietly carried become the wisdom that makes them feel safe. The calmness you developed through life's many seasons becomes the place where their own heart finally feels at home. And perhaps that is why this connection feels so different. It is not built on chasing excitement. It is built on recognizing value. It is not sustained by perfect moments. It is strengthened by genuine presence. As this chapter gently closes, one quiet realization remains. Sometimes life surprises you by bringing someone younger into your story. Sometimes it surprises you by revealing that your paths were connected long before you realized it. But every now and then, life offers an even rarer gift. It introduces you to someone who reminds you that the right connection is never measured by age, expectations, or appearances. It is measured by the peace you create in each other's lives. And that quiet peace is the surprise that stays long after every other surprise has faded. A new chapter never begins by repeating the last one. It begins with a feeling that something familiar has become even more meaningful. And that is exactly where this journey continues. The excitement has settled into something quieter, yet somehow even stronger. The more you understand this connection, the more you realize it was never built upon surprise alone. It was built upon quiet consistency, gentle understanding, and two hearts that learned how to appreciate what truly matters. There will come a day when neither of you talks about the age difference anymore. Not because it disappears, but because it becomes completely unimportant. What once seemed like the first thing people might notice quietly fades into the background, replaced by laughter that feels effortless, conversations that stretch for hours without feeling long, and moments of peaceful silence where nothing needs to be explained. Something important is waiting for you in this realization. The strongest relationships are rarely remembered because of how they began. They are remembered because of how they made two ordinary lives feel extraordinary. This person will celebrate your victories as if they were their own. They will encourage your dreams without trying to reshape them. They will notice when your energy changes before you say a single word. Those small acts of care will become the foundation of a connection that grows stronger with every passing season. And quietly, almost without realizing it, you will begin doing the same. You will become the calm voice they look forward to hearing after a long day. You will become the reassuring presence that reminds them they never have to face life's questions alone. Neither of you planned for this. Neither of you expected it. Yet both of you slowly become a place of peace for the other. Stay until the final lines of this chapter, because one last discovery gently reveals itself. You may one day hear someone ask how the two of you met. They may smile when they notice the difference in your ages. They may wonder what first brought you together. You will smile too. Not because you have a dramatic story to tell, but because you know something they cannot immediately see. You know that what truly connected you was never visible on the surface. It was the timing, the kindness, the patience, the willingness to recognize someone's heart instead of measuring them by expectations. That becomes the story worth remembering. And then, during one peaceful evening, perhaps while watching the sunset or simply sharing an ordinary conversation, this younger soul will say something that quietly stays with you forever. I'm grateful we didn't meet any earlier. Those simple words will make you pause. Because in that moment, you will finally understand everything that once felt delayed. You will realize that every season had its purpose. Every lesson had its place. Every unexpected turn gently guided two lives toward the exact moment they were both ready to appreciate what they had found. The greatest surprise was never that someone younger entered your life. The greatest surprise was discovering that the connection felt timeless from the very beginning. And as you look ahead together, you won't wonder whether the future will be enough. You'll quietly recognize that the most meaningful journeys are not defined by how unexpectedly they begin. They are defined by how peacefully they continue. It is often after the biggest realization that the quietest truth finally reveals itself. By now, the excitement has softened into certainty, and certainty carries a different kind of beauty. It no longer asks endless questions. It simply allows the heart to breathe. If you have stayed with this journey until now, then one more layer is ready to unfold, and it may become the piece you remember long after every other detail fades. There will be a moment when this person looks at you with complete sincerity, not because they are searching for answers, but because they have already found one. They will not speak in grand promises or dramatic words. Instead, they will say something beautifully simple. You make life feel lighter. At first, you may smile without realizing how deeply those words settle inside you. Yet later, perhaps when you are alone, you will remember them again. Not because they sounded extraordinary, but because they were genuine. Sometimes the most meaningful compliments are the quiet ones that ask for nothing in return. Don't skip this moment, because something important is still waiting for you. You once believed love had to arrive with certainty from the very first day. But this connection teaches something different. It shows that trust is built one conversation at a time. Respect grows through small acts of kindness. Joy appears in ordinary afternoons. The greatest stories are not written in a single unforgettable moment, they are written through countless peaceful moments that become unforgettable together. As time moves forward, you will begin noticing little habits that neither of you planned. They remember exactly how you like your coffee. You remember the songs that always brighten their mood. They send a thoughtful message just when you were thinking of them. You save a story because you know it will make them smile. None of these moments tries to impress anyone. Yet together, they become a life. And perhaps that is the most unexpected discovery of all. You were never searching for someone to complete you. They were never searching for someone to rescue them. Both of you were simply becoming the kind of people who could appreciate a peaceful, genuine connection when it finally appeared. One day, someone may ask what made the two of you work so well together. You may think about many possible answers. The shared laughter. The quiet understanding. The mutual respect. The perfect timing. But in your heart, you will know the simplest answer is also the truest. You both chose to see each other for who you really were. Not for expectations. Not for appearances. Not for age. Just for the person standing in front of you. And in a world that often rushes past what matters most, that choice quietly became the beginning of something lasting. Yet even now, as this chapter gently comes to rest, one final thought remains suspended in the air. Every meaningful journey begins with a surprise. But the happiest ones continue because, day after day, two people keep discovering new reasons to choose each other. And that is the kind of surprise that never truly ends. The final chapter does not arrive with loud endings. It arrives with quiet understanding. By now, you have seen how one unexpected detail led to another, how every small revelation gently uncovered something deeper. Yet the most meaningful truth has been patiently waiting until this very moment. Imagine looking back months from now. You are no longer wondering whether this connection is real. You are simply living it. The conversations that once felt new now feel like home. The smiles that once surprised you now greet you naturally. The hope that once seemed distant has quietly become part of your everyday life. That is the beauty of genuine connection. It doesn't demand attention. It earns trust. Stay with these final moments, because this is where everything comes together. The title began with one unexpected idea. Your next soulmate is younger than you. At first, it seemed like that would be the biggest surprise. Then you discovered your paths had almost crossed before. Then you realized the timing had been carefully unfolding through ordinary moments that never seemed important until now. But the final surprise reaches even deeper. The person entering your life will remind you of someone you almost forgot. Not someone from your past. Not someone you once knew. They will remind you of yourself. The version of you that believed with an open heart. The version of you that smiled without overthinking tomorrow. The version of you that trusted life before disappointments convinced you to become cautious. Without trying, they awaken those beautiful parts of you again. And you do the very same for them. That is why this story was never really about age. It was about renewal. It was about discovering that the right person does not change who you are. They gently help you remember who you have always been. One quiet evening, after sharing another ordinary day together, there will be a pause between you. No words. No need to fill the silence. Just gratitude. In that peaceful moment, you may suddenly remember all the questions you once carried. You may remember wondering when love would feel effortless. You may remember wondering whether someone would truly understand your heart. You may remember wondering why certain chapters had to end. And instead of searching for answers, you simply smile. Because you are living them. The delays make sense. The unexpected turns make sense. The quiet seasons make sense. Everything that once appeared disconnected now forms one beautiful path. As you continue walking forward together, there will still be new adventures, new dreams, and new memories waiting to be created. That is the wonderful thing about meaningful connections. They never stop unfolding. They continue revealing new reasons to be grateful with every passing season. So if there is one truth to carry with you after this story ends, let it be this. The most beautiful surprises are not the ones that amaze you for a single moment. They are the ones that quietly bring peace into your life, day after day, until one morning you realize you can no longer imagine the journey without them. And perhaps that has been the message waiting for you from the very beginning. Not that life would surprise you, but that one day, the surprise would feel so natural. It would simply feel like home.